everyone. Welcome to this very special edition of Now and Then. If you listen to the pod, you know me. My name is Lynsey Walker. I'm VP of Marketing and Communications here at CHFA. But today I am joined with some pretty big deals in the natural, organic, and wellness industry who are helping kick off something very exciting we're launching at CHFA, our greenhouse growth sessions. Before I introduce everyone, I want to set the stage as to what the greenhouse growth sessions are. These virtual sessions are designed for small and emerging stage brands in the natural, organic, and wellness industry and give founders the chance to ask questions, brainstorm, and untangle problems real time that can end up saving you a ton of time, a ton of money, and a ton of heartbreak. We want you to learn from the best so you can give your brand the best foundation to scale and succeed. Each session will start with a quick foundation to give you insight into some of the biggest watchouts and pitfalls that early stage brands make. Then we open the floor to you, giving you full access to these experts to ask your toughest questions. Over the series, we'll be covering some of the biggest decision points early stage brands face, what you can and can't say in your product claims, how to prepare for retail buyer conversations, how to turn trade show traffic into actual opportunities, and when it makes sense to engage a broker or distributor. Today's episode is meant to give you the lay of the land. We'll introduce you to the experts behind the sessions, talk about why these topics matter, and give you a sneak peek into the kind of practical insight you can expect when you join us live. So before we get into the session, I'd love to have each of my wonderful guests introduce yourself, tell us what topic you'll be covering, and what's the number one reason that you're the best person for founders to get advice from on these subjects. So I'm going to go around the circle. I'm going to start with you, Aaron. Introduce yourself.
Good morning. Thanks for the invitation to the podcast. As Lynsey said, my name's Aaron Skelton. I get the honor of being the president and CEO here at the Canadian Health Food Association. I've been tapped with leading the discussion around retail readiness and super excited for that. And before joining CHFA, I spent a significant part of my career at loblaw companies. And obviously that gave me the opportunity to work with brands from large multinationals to budding entrepreneurs and listen to them pitch some of their first products. So really excited to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. Actually, you know what? I'll go to Michelle because I think a long time ago you actually had to pitch to Aaron. So why don't you introduce yourself next?
I did. Well, I am one half of the Roadmap CPG duo. So I'm Michelle Perchidney and work alongside Corianne Webster. And our backgrounds and stories are very much hitched at the hip. So I'll hand it over to Cor and she can do a two-person intro for us.
Love it. Go ahead, Cor.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm Corianne Webster. Hello. And like Michelle said, we together form Roadmap CPG. So like Michelle said, we've spent the better parts of our career helping brands scale across North America. And so we came together to form Roadmap CPG to do exactly that. We work with brands to essentially help them develop their own roadmaps and help them scale from wherever they are, kind of help them see around the corner because you don't know what you don't know. And we really focus a ton on the really key foundational pieces that we know help set brands up for success. Things we'll talk about today, things like channel strategy. We talk about price architecture, all of these really what might sound boring, but really critical pieces to the business. And our topic for the sessions is broker and distributor readiness. So when to engage, what to expect. I think we're really prepared and excited to talk about this topic because it's a question that comes up with every single client. Bringing a broker on or bringing a distributor on or both is such a critical growth point and really huge investment. And so we're really passionate about setting brands up for success at that moment and setting them up for the long term to make sure that they're getting the most out of that investment.
Totally. And you want to do it when the time is right. So excited to learn from you. And I will say, you're not talking about being a broker on these sessions, but I'll hand it over to Scott. You're doing a topic that I think is very near and dear to our hearts at CHFA. So introduce yourself.
Yes. So you know how some people are looking for ways to highlight the brands and the company at the CHFA Now shows? I'm the one that helps them have the best show experience in advance. My title is Business Development Director at CHFA, Canadian Health Food Association. And I have 27 years in the Now industry, from retail to distribution to brand sales. And I will be talking about trade show readiness.
Amazing. And last but very, very much not the least is my actual Now and Then co-host, Ashley. But you're playing a different role today. You are not in the host seat. You are in the subject matter expert seat. So I know everyone on the pod knows you, but tell us why you are the best person for this particular role.
Thanks, Lynsey. And hi, fellow guests or subject matter experts, and hello to all of our listeners. I'm Ashley Cornell. I'm the Director of Regulatory Affairs and Policy at CHFA, and I'll be leading the session on claims and compliance. So, a big part of what I'll be doing in this session is helping brands understand how regulatory requirements for food intersect with marketing statements and product claims, because it's not always obvious that there are rules behind what you can and cannot say about a product, especially when it comes to product claims and how those might be interpreted. So, having worked myself on industry innovation teams, I understand the practical business realities behind the early stage innovation. And I never want to scare brands and make them afraid of making products themselves, but I do want to help them make smarter and more sustainable decisions that will actually help support long-term growth and reduce compliance risks as they start to scale their business.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm excited to learn from you all, and there's a lot of different topics to cover here. So I'm actually going to start with you, Erin. I want you to take yourself back to your Loblaws days. You're meeting with a new brand. A founder walks into the buyer meeting with you. How quickly could you tell they weren't retail ready, and what were some of the signs that they were still figuring it out?
Well, it depends. Was it Michelle pitching or somebody else?
Michelle was always retail ready.
No, Michelle was always very prepared. Very
Yeah.
prepared. If I'm being honest, probably within the first 5 minutes, right? I mean, if I think back to it, the funny part of it was that it was almost never about the product, right? That's not what gave it away. Most of the founders that come in to pitch to retail, they're incredibly passionate. They really care about what they're doing. Most of them had great products, but what really separated those that were ready from the not from ready was whether they really understood that retail is a business model and not just getting the product on the shelf, right? So the first sign was usually that they were there to talk about themselves instead of talking about the consumer, right? That was one of the early delineations you could tell. They'd spend 20 minutes telling you stories about their company, how it started in a garage, how much their friends loved the product, how many awards they'd won, but they couldn't tell you who their target customer was. They couldn't tell you why that customer would buy it or why it deserved a spot on the shelf in an already usually crowded space. The second sign was usually they confused distribution and demand, right? They really wanted to know how quickly they could get onto those first 100, 200, 1,000 store shelves, but they really hadn't figured out how to sell one unit off the one shelf that you could put them on. And when I think back to it, the third sign I really thought of is when they treated the buyer more like a gatekeeper, right, instead of a partner. Really good founders, those really good entrepreneurs, when they came in, they would understand that the buyer's job was to grow the category. And the best pitches weren't really about why my product is amazing. You would see much more conversation around this is how my product will help your business win. Right. So those founders that weren't retail ready were really focused on getting onto the shelf. And I think the early indicator was the founders who were ready were really focused on helping you get the products off the shelf. And usually that surfaced within the first, 5-10 minutes.
So interesting. I mean, I think the word community gets thrown around a lot, but it is kind of having that community mindset, right? Like you said, like the retailer's not the gatekeeper. You have to understand how that retailer fits into your ecosystem, how that consumer fits into your ecosystem, how it's all going to work together to move the product. So that's really
Yeah, I think it's reminding yourself that getting on the shelf is just a part of the ecosystem that you need to participate in.
Mhm.
Create your own demand, get your marketing done right, your R&D done correctly. And so, yeah, it's a tool to help support the growth of your business, but it's not the end game for sure.
Fascinating. Okay, I want to flip a little bit to like you were saying about the pitch and the claims and the passion that people come in with. And, Ashley, you and I talk a lot about compliance on the podcast. And I know there are a lot of brands who they don't even realize they're taking a risk with what they're saying about their product. I think they're probably trying to like impress the buyer, right? So why should brands have a better appreciation of the claims they're making and the risks they're taking if they aren't compliant?
They should care about the product claims because it can really impact trust, and it can do that in either direction, right? Claims can have the ability to hinder either a consumer's trust or a retailer or buyer's trust, but also it can help improve trust. In cases where maybe we have a non-compliant claim, it might seem harmless, but if it suggests, for example, a food can treat or prevent or improve some sort of health condition without the right rigor and support behind it, that can actually become a serious issue and an unnecessary regulatory risk. So a non-compliant claim can put a brand at risk for monetary penalties or product recalls or even license suspensions, which can have really big business implications. But on top of all of this, both consumer trust and government compliance can actually impact a retailer's confidence in a brand, right? If there's a known non-compliance with a certain brand, retailers are going to be a little bit more hesitant, as well as if they know that there's a consumer trust issue there, it will have the same impact. So understanding these types of things are important for any brand, but especially impact for early stage companies, because these claims often show up in so many different ways, right? It's on packaging, it's on their website, it's on their sell sheets, it's in these casual conversations that they're having, casual sales conversations. So the earlier brands understand these things and what they can say and what they can't say, they're able to make smarter decisions about their positioning, about marketing, and about growth. It's much harder to unwind these types of risky claims when your whole brand has been built around it. So it's not just about avoiding problems, it's about building a stronger foundation from the very beginning as you start to scale.
Just to tie it back to the retailer thing too, I think hearing actually what you said, oftentimes in those early meetings, brands are trying to say whatever they think they need to say to look good in front of the buyer.
Right.
But there is nothing that will burn down that foundation of trust more than finding out later that what they said was wrong, right? And they were just trying to spin it. So I think being contained within what you're comfortable with and what is accurate is important from a consumer trust standpoint, but you highlighted it even from the retailer standpoint. They need to know they can trust what you say. And if you're trying to spin it too much, then that can really be to the detriment of you down the road.
Yeah. If you had a product recall or you had to do a stop sale or something, that retailer doesn't want to lose that revenue either, right? It's thinking about that whole picture and building those partnerships and those relationships long term. Okay, I do want to switch gears a little bit to the trade show proper. And I have had the pleasure of walking the trade show floor with Scott, and you have the gift of the gab, which I do not. um, thinking you're a retailer, a broker, a distributor, they walk by your booth, a brand only has a few seconds. What does a strong opening conversation look like?
Put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're going to be talking to. The more that you talk, the longer it goes, the more that you're going to lose them. They're going to glaze over and they're going to be gone because they're going to try to see hundreds, if not 1,000 different booths. So the 3 recos that I have is a quick hook, quick hit 2 to 3 attributes while you're talking to them. And then while they're trying their product, hopefully they're willing to try it, have 2 to 3 conversational things and practice it over and over. You don't have to have the gift of the gab, but practice it over and over. And so that would be something like, let's say I created Scott's delicious cinnamon buns that are gluten-free. So someone would walk up, I would say, try some delicious, indulgent cinnamon buns. Simple. Bring them over. And then as they're there, I'd say, well, 2 to 3 attributes. It's new, it's Canadian, it's gluten-free. Cool. They're going to click on that. And then as they're trying it, ask them some questions. You might see what store they're from, but be curious. What location are you from? What do you do there? What is your job? And while you're having that conversation, you're qualifying the buyer simultaneously to find out how deep you go in this conversation. If they work in the supplement department and you are not selling supplements, get them engaged and talk to them, but don't do a hardcore sales pitch because they're not that client, right? If they're the people that work in the department that you'd be selling to, then be a little more curious, but scan their badge and follow up after. Just quick. So you want a quick hook, a quick hit of a couple attributes to get them engaged, and then have 2 to 3 questions to qualify them. So be smooth, be quick, and conversational, and that's it, and follow up after.
I think also bring the energy. You want to draw them in, right? There's something
Yes.
about being on the show floor. It's so high energy. There's so much happening. There's so much noise. So yeah, I feel like the brands that can also just show up really big are the ones that win as well.
Yeah. I mean, Scott
That's
will
right.
have good thoughts on this, but I think being memorable, right, is important because, at our shows, they're walking 1,000 plus booths, getting pitched on by hundreds and hundreds of people. What's going to make you stand out? I think it's a great, great framing to have in mind.
Mhm. I think to level up too, for what Scott was saying, like if you did your homework on the retailers you were targeting and knew what their cinnamon bun offering was and knew they didn't have gluten free, you could just be like, oh, hey, I was in your stores and I saw you're missing this. And to Aaron's point before, you can elevate the category because this gluten free is trending like this. And yeah, know your
I love
stuff.
that. Like being proactive about your show, right? Like your show experience and what you want to get out of it and showing how much you know about your space and what you're trying to do as well. I love that so much. Okay,
Cinnamon
Michelle,
bun expert.
cinnamon bun expert. Put it on your LinkedIn. Michelle, I want to stay with you. Brokers and distributors can feel like a major growth milestone for brands. And so, what are the clearest signs that early stage brands are ready to engage with one of these partners? And on the flip side, what are some flags they're moving too early?
Yeah, for sure. It's a very important question to ask yourself. So, I think the overarching thought is brokers and distributors are multipliers, not starters. So, whatever's working in your business and whatever's not working in your business, they're just going to exasperate that. If the good's going to get better or the bad's going to get worse. So, you really need to have a handle on your business before you level up to engage with any of these partners. So, signs that you're probably ready are that you already have proven velocity, even if it's small. So, you want to know that even like 20 to 50 doors, your product is turning and you know why and how to make it turn, which means to Aaron was said it earlier, like you can't just get it on the shelf and then expect it to move off the shelf. Doing these tests in these small stores on your own first before engaging with distributors or a broker is so important. So you really understand what makes your product turn. Then make sure your unit economics are in a place where you can survive this margin stack of a distributor that can be, around 28% and a broker that can be 5%. Like, do you even have the gross margin to be able to afford these partners? Or do you need to stagger them and start with distribution first in your own sales team or a broker first in direct? Like, just thinking through what your business can hold on to and sustain, and then make sure you can reliably fulfill, which seems so basic, but you need to really be able to forecast your business to know, okay, if I had 100 stores because I'm hiring this broker, can you actually fulfill it if they all kind of hit their max capacity? So making sure you can reliably fulfill, because if you can't, it can hurt your partnerships with the distributor, the broker, and the retailer, right? You want to be able to reliably fulfill. And then last, to know that you're ready is the bandwidth to support whatever gets opened. So you have the enough trade spend to be able to support the new retailers. You can do demos, you can do all the admin that comes with it, and also the management of the distributor and the broker. Like with a distributor, you're filling out promo plans, you're listing products in their portal, then you're looking at your sales reports. Like, do you have the bandwidth to be able to manage all of that in your team? And then a couple, just two simple flags that you're too early for sure is that you yourself haven't had any direct retailer conversations yet. So if you're thinking of managing a distributor that might have a sales team or a broker that is your extension of your sales team, you need to know intimately what objections you get about your products, what margin requirements there are, what tools are needed. So then you can set the distributor and the broker up for success. So really important that if you haven't done those things yourself yet, it's probably too early. And then just really want to hammer home the COGS piece, that if you don't have your COGS in a stable spot, that you can afford these new partners, you don't want to make a move. You don't want to go anywhere until you get that locked in. So, yeah.
That advice is gold. That's brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, this is why I think doing these sessions is so important for these brands too. Like, there's so much in each individual topic that I think you create a product with passion and you're trying to sell it, but you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's those little mistakes over time that can add up, right? Okay, so Ashley, I want to come back to you though, because we're kind of talking about scaling and growing. And one of the things I've learned from you again is this concept of implied claims. Once a brand's in market and they're starting to scale, how do claims decisions become more complex?
Okay. So there is a bit of a nuance when it comes to implied claims, and we'll get into that more in the session. But I guess for now, as anything starts to scale, I touched on this a little bit before, is the claims start to show up in more places, right? You're advertising, maybe social media, you might have influencer advertising. The claims are across multiple different platforms, but also as you start to scale, more people are involved, right? You might be working with an advertising agency. You might be working with influencers themselves, and everyone might have a different line on where that safe line is for compliance. But this is where you start to shift from, is this claim allowed, like black and white, to what is the overall impression that we are giving about this product, right? You might not be saying this treats anxiety or this improves gut health, but a combination of the imagery or testimonials or even hashtags or before and after language surrounding the context of what you're trying to say, that still communicates a message to consumers, and regulators see that as well. So that is where we start to see a bit more challenging situations with implied claims as businesses start to scale. The brands that navigate this well are the ones that kind of build compliance right into their growth strategy. So they have a strong sense of compliance going in. But we'll discuss more about claims versus implied claims and what the difference is, or if they're actually the same in the session.
It's like Michelle, I think you said margin stacking, right? It's kind of like promotional stacking, if you will, and it can get away from you even if you're not, like you said, not saying a black and white claim. If it starts to kind of permeate all these different channels and influencers and social, like it can come across that your product will do one thing and you can get yourself into some trouble. Okay, Cor, you've been so patient, but I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on things. I wanted to ask you, what do you see as the biggest disconnect between what founders expect a broker and distributor to do and what those partners actually deliver?
Yes. I have to say, I was very excited that this was my question because this is a conversation that we have all of the time with our clients. So the number one, like the biggest disconnect is that founders or internal teams, they often expect brokers and distributors to function as an extension of their internal sales team. And in some ways that is true, but the expectation that they're just going to kind of do everything you want them to do without us putting the work into it is often the case. And so the reality of both of those types of partnerships, brokers and distributors, is that they're providing us a service. And they're also, we have to always think very similarly to how we think about retailer partnerships is our partnerships with brokers and distributors. They're managing, like the reality is they're managing dozens of brands, hundreds sometimes, depending on, what their service is. And so we have to, although it's a partnership that they're doing a service for us, we also want to be mindful of being a good partner for them. And so, yeah, a lot of times founders, they hope that once they secure that broker or distributor, the growth is just going to start happening independently of any work that they would put into it. And so we know that distributors move product and brokers create opportunities and get us in front of those retailers and start those relationships, but neither can replace the founder or that internal team's role in driving their objectives, driving their strategy, building relationships. This one is like, we come back to this all of the time, that there is founder magic and internal team magic that is so important when working with retailers. So when you kind of leave it all up to the broker or the distributor, a lot of that is lost. So relationships, number one for founders and brands to hold on to. And it's also, the brand's job to create brand awareness and, execute. And so the reality is that the strongest results come from when the brand stays hugely engaged with that process. So what does that look like for them? It's establishing clear expectations right out of the gate. What does best-in-class partnership between those two parties look like? So this is a bunch of things, but kind of the big things are like communication. What's the communication flow? Ways of working together. What works for them really well? What your expectations are of them? Providing the tools that everybody needs. Access to materials. We don't want them to be having to ask for multiple things many different times. We don't want materials we send out to not have the right information on them. All of those things are so important and really prove that you are an excellent partner to work with as well. And then the biggest thing, this is like the number one thing that we would drive home, is accountability. Within that process, there needs to be a system and a flow of communication where there's accountability for those expectations. So whether it's, we don't want death by meetings, but is there a monthly meeting? Is there some sort of cadence where you're reconnecting on the strategy and what you guys have both determined to be key objectives, and how are you tracking against that?
Amazing. And I love that concept of founder magic. I mean, I think that's why I selfishly love our trade shows so much. It's because you not only get to see the founder, you get to see the team, you get to hear it from them as well. And there is something, you can't just hand your brand off to someone else, right? Like it is your baby, and bringing that magic and showing up in all those different facets is so critical.
Yeah. And one more thing to layer on top of that, actually, to Erin's point earlier, is founder magic plus knowing your business. The magic, that's where the magic comes from. Yeah. That is the magic. Yeah. Being able to tell your story and having that true, authentic brand and like your reason for being, no doubt that's important, but you also have to know your numbers.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about authenticity with the brands to consumers. It works the
Yeah.
same way to buyers, right?
Yeah.
And no offense to any of my broker friends. You guys are amazing. We love you.
Mhm.
But you can't have that same authenticity walking into a buyer pitch, right? It's not your business. You're not the one who started it. You didn't mortgage your house for it. And so having that authenticity plus the business side of it nailed down, that's absolutely where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's the multiplier.
And let us do the work. I mean, that's the thing. Like there's such a heavy load too for those partners to take on to do all that work to sell your brand in or continue to tell that story. So yeah, you got to share the weight.
Okay, so I talked about founder magic, and I think our shows are an amazing place to get that founder magic. So I want to come back to the shows. And Scott, you actually just had a really great article on our CHFA.ca website site about Tuk Tuk sodas. So if anyone hasn't read it yet, basically they met with Sobeys on the CHFA Now show floor, but it was the relationship that progressed after that got them listed at selected Safeway stores. So I know lead capture is one thing, but conversion is a completely different thing. So what do you think brands should be doing before, during, and after the show to make those promising conversations actually turn into next steps?
That's a good question. I got 2 words for our brands, and that is visualize and understand. So understand what everybody's roles. Corianne, you did a really good job of laying out what the broker could do, what the founder could do. Well, if you're thinking about who you're going to be working with, like the example of Tuk Tuk and Sobeys, they're working with a local program. Well, what does the local program have to offer? How can they fit within that? And then how can Tuk Tuk help Sobeys become a star? Because Sobeys has got their own specific goals around this local program. Using that example, well, if you think about your distributor, your broker, your retailers, understanding where you would fit. Michelle, you talked about knowing your category. If you go into a store, I used to take pictures of the set in a natural store, in a conventional store, in a drugstore. Where would that brand fit? And then going into the trade show, I would know, oh, okay, you have a similar store to X in my neighborhood. Well, I anticipate that we're going to be able to fit into this category in a similar way. So you understood it, but you also visualized it. So taking pictures and understanding it in your mind, it's going to be easier to remember in the heat of the moment of a trade show. So understand the goals and the timeline. A retailer might have a time when they look at that category. Well, you're going to need to be patient and not impatient during that time leading up to that category review and be prepared for it. So understand the goals of everybody that you're working with and visualize how you fit in and what they're going to try to accomplish so you can help them look like rock stars to their bosses.
It sounds like what I'm hearing from all of you, like a common theme is if you're somebody who's a founder, you're often trying to like solve a problem for your consumer. Like you have this pain point or something, you're trying to provide a solution, but it's not just the solution for your consumer. It's like be the solution for your retail partners, be the solution for your broker, your distributor, like be easy to work with is really kind of the theme I'm hearing from a lot of you, which is really interesting. It's like a
And I
through
love the
line.
yeah, the consistent thematic through there, right?
Yeah.
Because from the retailer standpoint, you can really quickly differentiate between passion and preparedness, right? Like that. If you're passionate, you probably get the meeting. If you're prepared, you probably get the listing. Like there is a distinction
Yeah.
between the two. And as a buyer, you can forgive a lot in terms of performance, but what you can't forgive is someone who hasn't done their homework, right? If they can get in the store, they can see what your set looks like, they can see where the gaps are. I love visualizing that for somebody, like show me what my set could look like, what some improvements could be. That makes a huge difference for a buyer. The buyer's not buying your product, right? They're buying something to build confidence that you will succeed in their store. And so if they see a through line that you can help them grow their revenue, grow their category, enhance their margin, bring more customers into the store, that's what they're going to give you credit for. So you got to be prepared when you go into those meetings.
Yes. Do your homework.
Do your homework.
It never goes away. You think
Yeah.
it goes away, but it never goes away. Do your homework. Okay, so Aaron, I want to come back to you because you're in actually a really interesting position because you have been a buyer at our biggest retailer in Canada. You've also been on the brand side and you've started to grow small brands and really had success there. And now as, president and CEO of CHFA, you do a lot of mentorship within the industry. So the growth sessions, they're designed to be interactive. They're not passive webinars. Like I said at the top, you're not coming and listening to someone give you all this information for an hour. Why do you think that format is so important for founders at this stage?
Yeah, I think, when you're a founder, it can be really hard to navigate, really lonely, right? To figure out where you need to go next. And I think we often, and this isn't just for founders, but we overestimate the value of the information and we sort of underestimate the value of the conversation that can happen around that information. Um, we can all watch 100 different webinars on growth, on retail, how to raise money, what operations look like. You will learn a lot without question. But the moment you try to apply any of that advice, that's when you get tripped up, right? Like, how does it work in my category? That doesn't work for my margins. We operate differently. Is that the way retailers would interpret it? I've made this mistake. How do I fix that? There was really personal things that you can't get from just straight information. And I think that's why interactive really matters and can be really helpful. If you want to accelerate your growth, yes, it's about collecting knowledge, but you got to pressure test it. You got to, sit around with other people that are going through similar things, who have learned from that before, and some people that are just wrestling with the same challenges. Because I can confirm for you, you're not the only one going through these challenges. So I found that the most valuable things happen aside that information gathering, right? The people that are there and the people you can interact with. We talked about building a business being lonely, but it gets a whole lot easier when you realize that you're actually not alone solving those problems. And I think interactive sessions really support that. Let's be honest, if everyone could solve their biggest challenges as a founder by watching webinars, I think we'd all have a lot more free time on our hands. And Korean probably wouldn't have a business. So I think there is a lot of benefit to not only getting the right information in front of you, getting around people that have that knowledge, but having an opportunity to ask questions and apply it to your own business, because that's where you can really start to differentiate just information to things you can apply to your business.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite things. You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together, right? And so finding the people you can tap into, finding those who are in the same space as you, like you're going through the same thing at the same time, can be really rewarding too. And like you said, you never know where a conversation is going to take you, or where it's going to spark an idea or uncover something again that you didn't know. So I love that. Um,
I have a
oh,
build
go,
on
yeah,
that.
build away.
Is the nuances too, because we find a lot of founders naturally are using AI to find answers. And so then they'll get spit back at us. And so we'll get these like long emails of this is what I think I should do because AI told me to. And often it's quite accurate, but it's the nuances of A, the Canadian market, B, that retailer, C, that category that is totally lost. So I feel like these sessions are going to be so good in teasing out those things that a webinar or AI and only real life and real experience can provide. Because the whole point is to help these brands like really accelerate. Yeah.
Well, to your point, Michelle, I think the structures can be the same, but every buyer is different. Every buyer has a different passion, a different path on what got them there. Some of them have been in their desks for like 30 years. They're going to have a very different approach than the person who just came out of a brand and is looking to make a name for themselves. So that nuance of who you're pitching to, you can't find that on AI. You got to have conversations about that.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, I'll
Yeah.
give a plug for you guys. This is why you guys were invited here, because the amount of experience you have across different areas of the industry, different buyers, different, like I said, retail side, brand side, distributor side, trade show side, industry side, like it's quite impressive too. And so to be able to get that expertise right kind of at your doorstep, if you will, your virtual doorstep, to ask those questions to you guys, I think is really valuable.
Okay, wait, did you just call us old? That's what I
No,
heard.
I called you valuable.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
It's different. It's very
Seasoned
different.
experience. Oh,
Yeah. No. Small amount of experience, not yeah. Okay, Michelle and Cora, I do want to go over to you because you do work with a lot of brands and really help them to get ready for planning, for growth, for those big pitches. What do you think brands should do before attending a growth session so they can get the most value out of the conversation?
Honestly, to get the most out of our session and probably any of these sessions is for them to have already done some homework and some pre-thinking. So 3 things that they should know really off the top of their head easily coming into these sessions is what's actually working. So where are their velocities the strongest? Where are they turning? What's working? What's not working? And being able to know their numbers. So if someone asks them like, what is your turn rate? They should know that off the top of their head. Then where you want to go and why now. So like, I want to get into Whole Foods. Well, why do you want to get into Whole Foods? Are you ready to get into Whole Foods? Is that the right channel for like, maybe you have an ingredient that isn't compliant? Like just really thinking through where they want to go and why, and then know their constraints. So we all have very lofty ideas and it's important to dream big, But then to take it back a step and know, can I afford this? Do I have the team? Are my velocities there yet? Or do I need to do some testing and learning first to get them going so then I can grow from there? So the ones that'll get the least out of this is hoping that we'll build their strategy for them from the ground up in these sessions. They need to come at least with the raw materials, and then we can help them shape it and form it as much as possible in the time allowed. So
Second theme, do your homework. Treat everyone as a partner. Always do your homework. So I'm going to switch gears into a bit of a rapid fire question. I'm going to come to each of you. So I'm going to read the question, give you some time to think about it. For brands joining your specific growth session, what are the top 3 things they should consider asking or bringing to the session? Okay.
Got it.
Good. Okay. We're going to go Aaron first. Top 3 things.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a little bit about what Michelle said. I think come with what you think your biggest growth challenge is. So have identified, do your homework, understand what you think is limiting you the most so that we kind of spend the most time on the things that are going to bring the most value. I think knowing your business, knowing the numbers, whatever you're comfortable sharing, I'm sure these are going to be well attended. So it'll be dependent on who's there and what you feel comfortable with, but have that understanding so you can speak to your business from a fact standpoint, not just a passion standpoint. I think it's also important in these sessions. I'm going to do 2 more, Lynsey. I'm going to go 4. I'm going to break the rules. 3, you'll understand. 3,
Understood.
I think you got to be prepared to hear the hard truth, right? If you want direction and advice from your peers, it's not always going to be positive news. There's going to be some hard feedback. So just come prepared to understand that you might not hear what you want to hear. And then my 4th bonus one is bring a notebook, because you're going to hear a ton of different conversations. And I find personally, I can bring my own challenges and get feedback on that. But listening to other people's challenges, there's often things that will pop up that you'll get an idea from. So be prepared to listen, even if it's not your question, and you'll be impressed with some of the good tidbits you can come away with.
That was a good bonus.
Yes.
All right.
Not going to get mad at you for going for 4. 4, I'll go to you. What do you think the 3 things that founders should bring to your and Michelle's session? Wow, it's hard to say. Yours and Michelle's session.
Yeah. Okay. So we said it many times. You'll hear us say it many times in the session. Know your COGS and your margins. So that's number 1, COGS and margin. Absolutely. Channel strategy. So, and if you don't know what that is, look it up. These are things we will talk through, but understanding where you're succeeding and where you want to go, like plant that seed, think about it, chew on it before you get there. And then the capacity, like what capacity do you have to work with these teams that you're considering bringing on board? And that means so many things. Think about it. If it's just you, if you're a 1-person show, do you actually have time in your calendar to carve out time to work with these people? What processes can you put in place? Or are you onboarding people to take care of them? Because just know that bringing on those partners requires capacity to work with them.
Just money, human time.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. It's
Energy
important.
requires energy. Yes.
Yes. Who has 26 hours in a day?
Yeah.
Okay. Ashley, I'll go to you. What are the 3 things people should bring to your sessions?
I don't know if I have 3, so I'll give a couple to Aaron.
Love
But I would say come prepared with the claims or the messaging that you're unsure about. So a bit of a different take on the homework, like do the readings, but you don't have to pull the like all-nighter study session for the exam type of thing. It's okay not to have the answers. In fact, the claims session will be kind of designed the opposite of that, right? Don't be afraid not to show up because you don't have a perfectly curated question. I think a lot of the learning can be done by hearing from the others attending as well. Like you might actually have a very similar problem to somebody else that's attending. So you don't have to have it all figured out to attend. But if you can, actually bring packaging or marketing materials or send it to CHFA ahead of time, not just the labels, but any sort of screenshots of your website, that type of thing, because the more advanced notice we have to look at the claims, the more specific and actually practical and more valuable that the feedback will be in the session. So if you know you'll be attending and you can provide it ahead of time, do that so we can get into the details of it.
Yeah, and for all sessions, when people register, we'll ask them to submit any questions ahead of time and obviously give the opportunity to upload labels as well, because I think that's like incredibly valuable to get your eyes on the labels. Thanks for reminding to say that. Okay, last but not least, Scott, 3 things for your session.
All right. I recommend that people write down their questions. And if they think they have an answer, write that answer down, but refer to it as you go to each one of these sessions, because it might spark another idea that would be a yes and to each one of those answers to your questions. So do your homework and prepare for it. Think about who your target retailer or who your target is at the trade show. Is it a retailer? Are you early on and potentially will be growing to a broker or distributor? Maybe not now, but eventually you will be. And so learn about those people, but figure out who your target is so you can plan your conversations. The second is, what is that message that you want to get across to people while you're at the trade show? Is it about the deliciousness of those cinnamon buns? Or is it about something else, that your retail readiness about like filling a category and something that they just don't currently have? Think about what that message is and how you're going to get it across. Those are some of the things that we're going to be discussing, and be willing to bring it while you're in that conversation. Like really be going for it, because if you believe in yourself, people are going to believe in it. And last but not least is, where do you want to show up in the show? And what message or what area of the show is going to be best to deliver that message? Come to these sessions with those questions written down, and hopefully you'll find some inspiration from it.
That's awesome. I think, Aaron, you said it too. It's like, come open, come willing to get feedback too, right? Like these are the conversations that I think are really going to help these brands grow. So thank you guys so much. This actually brings us to the end of our special edition of Now and Then. A huge thank you to Ashley, Aaron, Scott, Michelle, and Corianne for joining us and giving us a preview of what founders can expect from the Greenhouse Growth Sessions. For early stage brands, the biggest decision often happens before the big opportunity. We talked about this, before the packaging is printed, before the buyer meeting, before the trade show, before the broker and distributor conversation. So these sessions are designed to help you make those decisions with more clarity, more confidence, and better information. If you're joining us for the Greenhouse Growth Sessions, as everyone said, come prepared, bring your questions, your scenarios, your pitch, your packaging, your booth plan, or the part of your business. You bring your notebook, yes. Do not forget that. I've always got mine with me as a little bit of a bug. Everyone here has got their notebook. But bring the parts of your business that you're still trying to figure out, as Ashley said too. It doesn't maybe need to be a perfectly formed question. And that's why these experts are here to help you. This is your chance to ask the experts directly and walk away with practical next steps that you can actually use. Registration is now open for the Greenhouse Growth Sessions, and you can register through CHFA.ca. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you at the greenhouse. Bye.